Razzle dazzle, baby. Last night, the Red Wings on their social media account put up a tweet for their Red Wing of the Week honors. Now, okay, that's not necessarily what it's called, it's actually the Player of the Week, but it's done by the Red Wings and they only include Red Wings players, so it's pretty much the Red Wing of the Week. And when it comes to the guy they named this time around, I really wanted to go out there and use this as an opportunity to really go over the profile of this player, where he had been, and how he has become what he is today. 5 points in his last 2 games earns Big Raz Player of the Week honors. Now, it's not surprising to see why Rasmussen is given this. He had 2 goals and 2 assists for his first 4-point game in Wednesday's 7-4 win against the Lightning. This article, by the way, will be linked in the description. It talks about as to whether or not Rasmussen is better on the wing or at center. There are some comments over here from Derek Lalonde saying that Raz is a diverse player who can play both center and wing. Lalonde said himself that assistant coach Alex Tanguay had been lobbying for the switch to play Rasmussen on the left. I think it simplifies his game, Lalonde said. Rasmussen can skate more north-south being on the wing, and he's been pretty good there. Fortunately, with the amount of injuries we've had up front all year, it's been a luxury, those guys who can play both wing and center. Pia Suter has been pretty good for us on center, too. I think we're just working, Rasmussen said about his big 4-point night. Everyone was doing their jobs well. I think we had a really good forecheck night and some good plays. I think overall everyone was competing, getting to their spots, and it just went well for us. With this game in mind, though, let's talk today about Michael Rasmussen, a former Red Wings draft pick that was seen by a lot of people as somewhat of a... do I want to use the B word? Okay, we could say for the first few years, maybe somewhat of a bust, but who has really come into his own the past little while here in a way that a lot of Red Wings fans, myself included, are pleasantly surprised to see. Not only has Rasmussen broken out of that sort of limbo of being somewhat of a tweener middle six guy, trying to find his role, a guy who can't really go out there with the most consistency, and a player whom a lot of fans were kind of clamoring to get traded earlier in his career. But Rasmussen today is a guy who is one of the best point producers on the Red Wings when it comes to even strength, and when it comes to him being able to use his size, you're seeing a lot more confidence out of this player than ever before. Rasmussen, as we had noted, is a big dude. He's 6'6", 212 as a left-handed center. The catch is, he's only 23 years old, so there you go. Keep that in the back of your minds. This guy has a lot of time to eventually develop into even more than what he is today. But Rasmussen was taken 9th overall by the Red Wings in the 2017 NHL Entry Draft before guys that were sort of on the rise of being good players right away afterwards. Martin Necas was taken after Rasmussen, so was Nick Suzuki. You have some other names here like Josh Norris, Robert Thomas, Philip Cheadle, Yamamoto, all taken towards the end of that first round. And so with Rasmussen's development over the past few years, it was really easy to see in a lot of people's minds why they thought this might have been the wrong pick early on. But of course, draft picks aren't decided 5 years after the draft, they're decided decades after. And just in the short term, we had seen other players taken after Rasmussen have better careers than Rasmussen, especially when you look at what he was able to do in the NHL. After he got drafted in 2017, he had spent another season with the Tri-City Americans, where he was over a point per game, which was pretty alright, but then he made the Red Wings the year after, and he wasn't particularly impressive. 18 points, 62 games played. He had spent the next few years going up and down between the Red Wings and the Grand Rapids Griffins, before last year playing his first full National Hockey League season. Rasmussen had 27 points in 80 games played and 15 goals too. But still, even though that's a pretty okay rate for a guy who's only 22 years old, there was still a lot of pedigree and a lot of expectation attached to being a 9th overall draft pick just a few years ago. You could kind of understand there's an expectations versus reality thing here, and with the fact that Nick Suzuki became the captain of the Canadiens later on, it kind of rubbed a little bit more salt in the wound as to what the Red Wings decided to do. Now, I'm not going to go out there and say that Rasmussen is better than Suzuki right now, but this season the guy's got 15 points in 30 games played, 6 goals and 9 assists, and he is on pace for 40 total points on the year. 16 goals and 24 total assists is his projection in 80 games played, so quite literally half a point a game. But there are two other things I wanted to note when it comes to the production that Rasmussen has. Firstly, the guy's only making $1.46 million a year. That number he'll be making till the end of 2023-2024. This is a really good contract for a guy who provides the amount of production that he does. Not only is he one of the cheaper Red Wings on the team, but he also is one of the most productive, just period. If you go over to the Wings right now and you see where they're at scoring-wise, Rasmussen is 7th overall in points. And the second thing that I wanted to note as well is that every single one of Michael Rasmussen's points has been at 5v5 play. This is really important because even with no power play time whatsoever, you still have Michael Rasmussen going out there and doing a really good job at making it count when it counts. Only Andrew Kopp, David Perron, and Dylan Larkin have more 5v5 even strength points than Rasmussen. And of course, as we have seen lately, the reason he got the Player of the Week honors is because he's got 5 points in his last 2 games. Not to mention the fact that the guy's got an absolute heart of gold. Coming in on an empty net, he's got an opportunity to seal the deal. And even in that moment, he's looking behind him, trying to find Dylan Larkin because he's just that much of a team player. Now, aside from, of course, the on-ice heartwarming moments, there still are some really good things about Rasmussen that we have noticed about him as well. If you compare tape of Ras from this year up until tape from, let's say, 2 years ago, maybe even just a bit further back last year, the guy is so much more confident now, and he's a lot more competent in general as well. Of course, you can see they're the same player, they have the same tendencies, they're of course the same size, but Rasmussen this season is just getting things to go his way a lot more often than he had been prior. He's winning more battles, he's making more plays, he's getting it to go a lot more so than he had in the past, and he's playing a role on this team that is valuable. 5v5, just proper puck facilitator who can play well enough without the puck on his stick to justify keeping in the lineup, and who is producing at 5v5 as well. It was kind of questionable seeing him not get that much power play time at the moment, especially when Soderblom exited the lineup, but at the same time, I mean, with guys like these, they're already going through quite a little bit of turmoil throughout their career because they're up and down, AHL, NHL, etc. There's some controversy as to whether or not they're the right picks in their draft positions. I can understand if the Red Wings are coming at it from the perspective where they don't want to push it. If Derek Lalonde is saying, okay, he's already playing so well, we don't need to give him that power play time just yet because he's providing value elsewhere, that in which we're kind of surprised to see. But at the end of the day, you know, maybe some power play time would be nice. Maybe that's on his Christmas wish list for 2020. What is it, 2023? Yeah, it's 2022 right now. Oh my goodness, I completely forgot. But either way, Razzle-dazzle Michael Rasmussen has been a big treat to watch, and I say that in the most literal way possible because he's a pretty big dude. But lo and behold, this is sort of the mold of the player that Ken Holland drafted all those years ago back in 2017. There were some questionable decisions, for sure, in terms of who the Red Wings ended up taking throughout those years, but one thing's for certain is that Michael Rasmussen today is a lot better than the Michael Rasmussen of years prior. There's something also to be said about bigger guys in the NHL just in general, because I feel like with Tage Thompson becoming what he has become for the Buffalo Sabres, it really starts to paint a picture as to what big guys can really do in their earlier seasons in the National Hockey League. We already made a video talking about Elmer Soderblom and asking whether or not he could become the Wings version of Tage Thompson, which of course is like not going to happen, realistically. I mean, if it does, then okay, I'll bite my hat and I'll say, yes, that's amazing, but like, at the same time, projecting anybody to being a 60-goal pace, 120-point player is not really setting yourselves up with realistic expectations, but still, I do think that with the Thompson story, it really paints a picture as to how big guys sort of develop differently a little bit. Like even with the Quinton Byfield thing in LA, you could see that he's gone through some sort of a slower development path because he had just spent some time in the AHL as well before getting called up to the Kings. I believe it was earlier this week. Rasmussen, same thing. It took him a while to really get going, and even now, like, as we had said, he's not Nick Suzuki. He's not the captain of the Red Wings, and he's not really producing like him either, but he's at half a point a game. That in and of itself is a really good metric for Rasmussen. Personally, it's just if you had said, okay, well, this guy's going to be outscored by Norris and Yamamoto and everybody else this early on, it probably would not have been the best piece of news to hear, but at the end of the day, it's all circumstantial, right? Rasmussen is a bigger dude, he is coming into his own, and he's playing a lot better, so that's all we can really ask for. So, talk to the comments on your thoughts. If you are a Red Wings fan, what are your thoughts on Michael Rasmussen, the way that he's played so far, how he's been progressing from last year up until this year, and where you see him going both in the short-term and long-term future. I hope you enjoyed this video, Juraj 9, and bye.